Hey, what's up, YouTube? How's it going, guys? Just pulling up the Instagram feed. We'll get going. How's everybody doing today? All right. Welcome, everybody, to another Q&A session. I'm Johnathan White, and I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can magnetize your ideal life. And I'm just going to be talking about, really, I'm just going to be answering questions, send any questions you have about whatever, really. So let me pull up some questions that were sent to me. All right. So first of all, hope everyone's doing well. This time of year here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're moving into winter. It's a really important time to cultivate stillness, to really be within yourself, right? Energetically, winter is all about storing up. It's about going within. It's about letting go of things, right? And having more stillness in your life. This is a time when people's sexual energy especially starts to diminish, especially if you don't see the sun ever, right? Because our bodies kind of follow the rhythm of the seasons, and in nature, everything's just kind of collecting and kind of hibernating to prepare for spring and summer. So it's an important time to kind of have more stillness, let go of excessive busyness to really build your chi, build up your reserves so that when spring comes, you're recharged, basically, right? Really important to stay in balance with the seasons. So taking vitamin D, very, very important for your hormonal balance in the winter. Obviously, you get vitamin D naturally from the sun, but a lot of people don't even get sun now in the modern world, living in the city. So vitamin D3, I take about 5 to 10,000 IU of that per day. Some immune system support, vitamin C. I take liposomal vitamin C. I'll take about 3,000 milligrams a day. Colloidal silver is amazing. It's antiviral, powerful immune booster. Oregano oil, take a few drops under the tongue. It's a natural antibiotic. It kills a lot of stuff. So, keep yourself healthy and charge up this winter. Anyways, getting into the questions. All right, so here's some from Instagram. Okay, how do you reverse general and antidepressant-induced erectile dysfunction? Well, if antidepressants are causing your erectile dysfunction, then you probably want to, get yourself off of them. Obviously, I'm not a physician. I can't give you medical advice, but I personally would not be taking, pharmaceutical drugs. I would do anything in my power to get off of them and to not put these things in my body. So that's kind of the first step, is to wean yourself off this stuff. Look to herbal remedies, look to natural remedies, look to, holistic health instead of Western, drug prescriptions. So once you've done that, then it's a matter of bringing your body back into balance. So eat healthy organic foods, drink high quality water without fluoride, without chlorine in it. Get exercise, spend time in nature, take some herbs that regulate your hormones and things like that. So that's for, if antidepressants are causing your erectile dysfunction, you need to detox that out of your body. But general erectile dysfunction, there's many causes of it. Typically, one of the main causes now is actually dopamine imbalance, actually, especially if you're looking at porn, or if you're spending a lot of time on social media looking at hot girls and things like that. It really messes with your dopamine receptors. You need healthy dopamine levels to be able to have an erection, right? Especially to be able to sustain it over a period of time. It requires healthy dopamine balance in your body, basically, right? And so if you're always overstimulating yourself sexually, or just in general, your dopamine receptors are completely fried from spending all day looking at screens, engaging on social media all day, playing too many video games, taking drugs, then, you'll want to regulate your dopamine, doing a dopamine detox. I made a YouTube video on this recently. So that's really, really helpful for that. It's the more psychological brain chemistry, erectile dysfunction, which is what most people who have it nowadays are suffering from, especially younger guys are having this porn-induced erectile dysfunction. So, but as far as, other factors of erectile dysfunction, often it is also too much stress in your life, you're burned out, you're not sleeping enough. That's the priority, is getting, enough sleep for your overall health and vitality, especially if, you're having erection issues, hormone issues. Building your jing. Your jing is your physical essence. In Chinese medicine, this is related to the kidneys. It's not so much about the physical health of your kidneys, but the kidneys are considered to store the jing, the physical essence of the body. So you want to build your kidneys, especially in wintertime. This is important. So jing building foods, the two main ones, goji berries and black sesame seeds. These are loaded with minerals, really, really supportive of that kidney jing, right? So make sure you're eating, these jing boosting foods. You can do a little research on that. Another thing is exercising your penis, right? Blood flow is important part of having a strong erection. Hormonal balance is important. So, take your zinc, your magnesium, your boron, selenium, these minerals that you need for hormonal support, but also improving the blood flow in your body. So if you don't exercise, you'll definitely want to change that. You need to have healthy blood flow in your bodies to have healthy erections. There's also specific penis exercises you can do to improve your erection quality. It's really a use it or lose it situation, right? And a method that I've been promoting is called the Angion method, Angion. Really amazing exercises for massively improving your erections, basically. What's my go-to water? Like brand name and good spots to get it. A lot of like commercial bottled water it's not very high quality. A lot of it's just, tap water. So I'm not going to say any brand names because I don't buy bottled water. You want as pure water as possible, as purely purified water as possible. Honestly, in my opinion, the most superior water you can get is either direct from a mountain spring, which is, not easy for everyone to do now. Second to that is distilled water. Distilled water removes everything. But it's important that you restructure the water. Even if you pull all the garbage out of the water, so to speak, right? The fluoride, there's like remnants of birth control in city water supplies because of women taking birth control and urinating that out. So like our water, most tap water is very contaminated, not to mention they add chlorine and fluoride in it, which calcifies your pineal gland. Chlorine actually causes Alzheimer's as well. So anyways, distilled water is superior, but you want to restructure it. Simple. How do you restructure water? This is something pretty cool I learned. So in nature, water flows in a wave. A three-dimensional wave is a spiral. Water spirals and it structures the water. So how do you spiral your water and structure it? You do this. If you're holding a glass bottle and you do this, it'll create like a tornado, right? This spinning cycle. This structures your water. So distilled water, put a little sprinkle of Himalayan sea salt in it to add just a few minerals, shake it, and you've got really nice structured water. So distilled water is, the go-to. Reverse osmosis is great as well, but you want to get out everything. You want to get out the fluoride, the chlorine, a lot of these these water filter, it's like a jug of water that you fill and it has a filter in it. Most of those are poor quality. So reverse osmosis and distilled waters are high. It's going to get a lot of that stuff out that you don't want in, right? So there you go, some water hacks. All right, what are the questions here? So I'm reading questions from both Instagram and YouTube. Thoughts on no FAP, no sex as part of dopamine healing? Yeah, it can definitely help, especially if you have poor sexual habits. But, not all masturbation, not all sex causes these peaks in dopamine. If it's like very lustful, impulsive, like mentally stimulating, then yeah, it's going to cause, especially if you're focusing on like peak stimulation. But if it's very slow, focus more on connection, mindfulness, and building sexual energy, moving it through the body instead of just, mindlessly, tensely stimulating yourself, then it's not going to have those same dopamine effects, right? But it is good if you're like rewiring yourself, it's good to just take a break from it. And then here's another question, which, okay, I think it's good to touch on this. Is it fine to masturbate as long as you don't ejaculate? It depends. In general, it's so here's the thing. when you are aroused, when you're masturbating, you build up a lot of pressure, the sexual pressure. If you don't resolve that pressure, you're probably going to have a wet dream, or you're going to have blue balls, or you're going to build up all this uh, compression in your genitals, right? So most, without any skill, you're doing it. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to kill you probably, but it's not going to be very pleasant. The sexual kung fu method of masturbation involves working with the microcosmic orbit, breathing the sexual energy out of your genitals and moving it throughout the rest of the body. That's how you reach completion with all that arousal, that pressure it builds up. You breathe it and move it through the body, right? And therefore, if you're going to masturbate, you get the benefits, which is exercising your endocrine system. Your testosterone is actually boosted when you're, sexually stimulated, but you don't have that peak orgasm come down, right? The dopamine release and the prolactin release in the bloodstream. So if done consciously and with an understanding of internal energetics, then yes, you can masturbate, not ejaculate, and actually benefit from it. Okay, so it's questions about how I mentioned doing lower Dantian work before doing the microcosmic orbit. What's best? Okay, so basically to build your lower Dantian, if you don't know what I'm talking about, these are just energetic centers in the body. Lower Dantian's this center in your belly that you form through meditation. It becomes like your battery, your charge of chi, which you need to have something to move through the microcosmic orbit, which is this main energy channel in the body. Check out my YouTube video. It's called #1 Exercise to Build Energy. And I teach a very powerful method for building the lower Dantian. How can you control the energy and keep it in the microcosmic orbit if possible? Well, this takes training, it takes mental power. That's why it's good to first work just with the microcosmic orbit to get familiar with that. And then you can start playing around with sexual energy with that. And it's not necessarily going to stay in the microcosmic orbit, but it's at least moving from your genitals, because the orbit, it's known as one of the 8 extraordinary vessels. These are deep channels, right? So we have these 8 extra vessels. They're known as, in Chinese medicine, microcosmic orbit is 2 of those. These are like deep canals. They're also known as the psychic channels. They feed the more superficial acupuncture channel network, right? That most the acupuncturists are working with, the 12 meridians of the organ systems, right? And so the So basically, by running your sexual energy through the microcosmic orbit, it's going to connect into all these other meridians as well. So it's going to spread throughout your entire body as it needs to. Okay, you're trying the microcosmic orbit, but you don't feel anything. It's my first week trying it. I'm 15. Am I too young for the microcosmic orbit? I think it's fine to do it at your age, but most people, you're probably not going to feel anything when you first start, because it takes some time to develop sensitivity. And I recommend first working with the lower Dantian. So check the video I just mentioned, the #1 Exercise to Build Energy, on my YouTube channel. Work with that first. You'll start to feel your lower Dantian and build it. Then you'll really have some chi to start working with the orbit, and you'll start to feel it more. Did you experience pain in your balls in the region above your penis when you first started doing Kegels? I wouldn't say pain. I definitely experienced some soreness when I first began Kegels, but not pain. If you're experiencing pain from Kegels, you want to maybe look at your form. Are you doing something wrong? Make sure you're not squeezing too hard, or if there's something else going on down there. Okay, so I've been practicing edging and actually connecting myself internally. I've been moving the energy all over my body, but I wanted to know, is it normal to still feel it intensely in the pelvis? Yeah, it's very normal, because especially when you're first beginning, it's kind of a matter of opening things up more and more over time. In the beginning, you'll be practicing, sexual stimulation, moving the sexual energy, and you'll only be able to move some of that energy, but that's a good start, right? And the more skill you get at moving that energy, the more you'll be able to pull out of your genitals and not feel so much pressure there afterwards. So it's just a matter of practice and opening up the body more and more. The most important thing is actually doing foundational work. It's not the sexual techniques. Obviously, they're important at some point, but you're going to have much more success with these aroused sexual energy techniques if you first go a lot deeper in the fundamentals, which is why I've structured my 6-week course to have a lot of foundational work, so that by the time you get to the sexual energy work, your body's already open and it's a lot more effortless to make it happen, basically. Any insight on unprotected sex? I'm curious about being as safe as possible without condoms or partner taking a pill. Don't want any STDs or an offspring. Yes. I mean, you should only have unprotected sex if you've had an STD test and your partner has too, and you have, what you're doing in regards to birth control. Otherwise, wear a condom. It's not worth it, the risks otherwise, right? Yeah, the Goku video. That's the Dantian one. When's the book coming out? I'd love to write a book, but I'm super busy with everything right now. So in the future, I plan on someday making a book, but a lot of people nowadays are too distracted to read books, unfortunately. But I will write one someday. I know a lot of you guys are very focused and on it. So what is better, Tomcat Ali or ashwagandha? These are two different herbs. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. They have different purposes. Ashwagandha is an overall it's an adaptogen. It helps your body adapt to stress, helps your body, kind of balance stress hormones a lot better. Tomcat Ali is it's basically a yang tonic. It boosts testosterone levels and can give you more energy. So they're two very different herbs with different functions. So I wouldn't say one's better than the other. It depends on who you are, your individual body chemistry, and what your needs are right now, what's going to balance you. That's what herbalism is based on. It's not like this herb is better than this herb. It's like for this person at this time, maybe this herb is more balancing, right? You have to be careful, with just taking a bunch of supplements. You have to know if it's actually going to benefit you or not. Any info about when Michael Wynn will release 5 Bamboo Scrolls? It's going to be a profound read, maybe the best Tao alchemy literature of time. Yeah, so yeah, one of my teachers, Michael Wynn's been working on this book for many, many years. And I think he originally was going to make a book just on primordial Tai Chi, primordial Qigong form. And he turned it into this 5 series of books about internal alchemy. I have no idea when he's going to release it. 3 years ago, he said he was about finished with it. So who knows? The guy's kind of a perfectionist, but he's an amazing author, amazing writer. So I'm excited to read it when it comes out. Will semen retention make an old friend I did wrong years ago come back? No, it's not going to do that for you. That takes, maybe it can change your overall energetics if that was a factor in it, right? But it's not going to do the work for you. You have to do that for yourself. Repair your relationship yourself. How do you keep the pelvic floor relaxed? Just like anything, you work on relaxing it. You focus your mind down there and release tension. You can use the breath. You inhale, feel things expand. Exhale and feel like it's dissolving, right? Doing progressive relaxation exercises can really help. Doing reverse Kegels really helps as well. A reverse Kegel is if you're urinating, you're trying to push it out faster. That's the engagement, this pelvic floor engagement. You can also do it as so try this. You inhale, feel like you're breathing into your belly, and feel like you're slightly pushing out your pelvic floor as well. And you exhale and relax. So these methods can help kind of stretch out the pelvic floor and keep it relaxed. Would I ever be interested in taking ayahuasca? Not really at this time in my life. I've explored the psychedelic, the plant medicines in the past, and I'm kind of more interested right now just in getting to those states on my own through internal practice. I know that the plant medicines can be valuable allies, but they can also be crutches because it's something external. It's not something that's really arising from yourself. But for some, I'm not, for some people, they're perfect and they help them have breakthroughs, but I'm not really interested in that right now. Could blue balls be dangerous? I don't think it's necessarily dangerous. I haven't heard of anyone like dying from it, or having like anything really bad happening, but it's uncomfortable. It's a sign of energy being stuck, basically. So it's not ideal. This is basically caused by, again, just too much energy getting stuck in the genitals. It's pretty common when you're first experiencing semen retention, especially when when you start getting into non-ejaculatory sex, non-ejaculatory sexual stimulation. But the remedy is basically to keep your pelvic floor relaxed. A lot of pelvic floor tension tends to really cause blue balls when you're aroused. And also to learn testicle breathing practice, which I have a video of it on my YouTube channel. So you're breathing the energy from your testicles throughout your body. So that's the key when you're aroused, is to keep the energy flowing out of your genitals before too much builds up. And I haven't had blue balls in years. I've just started practicing with my lower dantian this week, but I have also had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening a while back. So is it normal to get this quickly? So I'm not sure if you're talking about like getting the method down quickly, but with working with the lower dantian, it's a foundational practice, and you'll be able to feel it with the method I teach on my YouTube channel pretty quickly. But to build the dantian, to really build it and stabilize it, takes time. It may take months, it may take a year, it depends. How often should I practice controlling my ejaculation with masturbation? And how do I know when it is the perfect time to stop? Because I often go over the edge. So it's up to you. It depends, if you aren't having any negative effects from it, like you don't feel angry or irritable or have like blue balls, then, you could practice, every day if you really want to. I think that 20 to 30 minutes is a good daily practice time for most people. If you go more than that, then you might get a little overheated. But it's really important to end the session with breathing through the microcosmic orbit, collecting the energy in the lower dantian. Do some relaxation exercises, shake out your body, maybe stretch a little bit to make sure things are flowing and it doesn't get, stuck in your body. Awesome. Thank you, Soothing Storm. Glad you enjoy it. What is Tong Ren Dao? I don't know what Tong Ren Dao is. Neigong, Shengong. Neigong is internal, Gong is, as in Gong Fu, Kung Fu is in Qigong. Gong is a skill or discipline, right? So Neigong is basically internal skill or internal discipline. It's basically usually internal energy practices that are done mostly just with the mind, with connection of the mind to the body. Shengong is the skill in working with Shen. Shen is like spiritual energy. So there's Jing, Qi, and Shen. Jing is like the more physical, dense form of energy, closer to the physical realm anyway. Qi's kind of like in between, right? It's fluid. It's like our emotions and things like that. Shen is spiritual, ethereal energy. So Shengongs are practices directly, basically connecting with spiritual energies. What is the top thing to do to completely open the energy channels within the body? I mean, the top thing is to have a regular practice of doing this, right? Because it's not just like you do one thing and you've got it. This is really something you have to work with consistently over time. I think Qigong is an excellent practice for doing this. Qigong and Neigong, as we were just talking about, internal meditation practices in conjunction, because it's really a process of opening the channels more and more over a period of time in a safe manner. Obviously, if you go from like 0 to like 100-volt current through your body, you're going to have some issues, right? So it's the same thing with your, working with your internal energy. You want to slowly amp up the flow, slowly turn the nozzle a little bit more, keep yourself grounded throughout the process. That's why, there's structured trainings of these things. You don't just like go to the highest, most powerful energy practices. It will fry you if you're not ready for it. So the best thing to do is to have a daily structured practice. This is what my Immortal Energy Arts Academy, immortalenergyarts.com, it's a structured training in internal energy practices. Have you heard of December 21st? Who hasn't heard of the date December 21st? I assume you're talking about the Great Conjunction. So there's a very auspicious alignment happening December 21st. I think it only happens every 800 years or so, but basically Saturn and Jupiter are aligning in the sky, and it's going to form I forget what they're calling it, a Christmas star or something, a solstice star. So a lot of people say it's going to open up a portal. Some people say crazy stuff's going to happen. Some people say that there was a misinterpretation of the Mayan calendar, the long count that ended on, originally thought to be 2012, right? Well, some people say that there was a mistake in the translation that's actually happening this year. I don't know, but it's an interesting time. So I think it's going to be a good time to manifest, a good time to be clear about, what you want in life, and to be focused on positive things. Tips on not letting your ego get the best of you in arguments. Well, I think the best thing to do is to avoid arguments as much as possible. But, before, typically what happens is like someone says something, it triggers you and you unconsciously respond. You're in, reactive mode, right? So instead of just saying what you want to impulsively, which is probably going to be something negative, take a deep breath, think to yourself, do I really want to say this? What will bring more of a positive, outcome to this conversation? So I don't know, hopefully that helps. Does it feel like you're super Saiyan, I'm not sure how you say it, Saiyan, when you achieve microcosmic orbit? It's a pretty cool feeling. There's stages to the microcosmic orbit though. There's various stages of advancement in it, right? There's a lot of different, we could say, qualities of energy that you can run through the microcosmic orbit. The first level is basically just feeling that channel with your mind. This is the method most people teach, is you just move your mind along the orbit, the microcosmic orbit, and you will move some chi through it that way. You're not going to feel that much from it, but there's various methods. There's also methods where you build a chi ball and run that through the orbit. You're going to get good results from these methods. It's going to balance your health, help balance out the channels, but the real magic happens when you get the jing moving through that channel. Again, the jing is that physical essence. It's a little harder to get that moving in your body. This takes some real practice, but when you get that level of the microcosmic orbit, then it feels like this hydraulic fluid, or like this electrical current running through your body. It's very tangible. It's very powerful. But yeah, it feels pretty cool. Is Qigong safe to learn? Is Qigong safe to learn by yourself without guidance? Well, yes and no. It depends what you're doing. I mean, if you're following like a video or a book, then you could say you have some guidance. Most of the stuff out there is very, very gentle. You're not going to have any problems. But if you're getting into like really forceful practices like chi packing and things like that, then you have to be careful. You can overheat. Anything that involves like force or excessive mental strain has a potential to cause issues energetically. But overall, if you're doing just like some standard beginner, Qigong kind of stuff, you're probably not going to run into any issues. Is it true the longer you go on semen retention, the more benefits you shall receive? Not really. From my experience, you see the most benefits when you first start, obviously, because you're starting to undo years of depletion. For me, it was after, it took me a few years of practicing semen retention, not saying that I went like, a few years without ejaculating, but just overall a few years working with semen retention, not having ejaculations frequently, to really, really build my energy back up. But the thing with semen retention is that there's kind of a sweet spot of like retaining, but also, I think cyclical semen retention is the best idea, because there's a tendency for things to get stagnant, especially the endocrine system. It's a use it or lose it situation. For most guys, somewhere between 1 to 2 to 3 months, your endocrine system actually starts to kind of atrophy. Your genitals and your testosterone levels can actually diminish. So you may actually start to lose benefits after 2 to 3 months, which is why I cyclically retain my semen, right? So no, I don't think that the longer, for me personally now, I plateau about 2 weeks. After about 2 weeks of retention, it just kind of plateaus. Not saying that's not a good thing. I have tons of benefits, and it's really the long use semen retention. And if you're at the same time doing qigong, doing these internal sexual kung fu practices, then you don't need to be so obsessive about never ever ejaculating ever. You can have an ejaculation here and there, and it doesn't even, like, you don't even lose energy when you know how to like harvest that energy, move it through your body, right? So it becomes less on like, I need to go 700 days without ejaculating, and more about just overall keeping yourself balanced and full of energy. I know you focus on Tantra from the male perspective. Do you or your partner have any videos on Tantra from the feminine perspective? My partner Mariah and I actually made a course for women. So we both teach it together. So I'm teaching some practices, but you'll also hear her perspective on things. So I offer that on my website. I think there's a link in my Instagram bio. She also has a goddess guide for women available as well. It's free. If you are not with anyone, I think you're asking, can you practice Tantra if you don't have a partner? Yes, actually the best time to start is without a partner, because it's a process of, there's so much to the sexual, evolution, we could say, of changing your relationship to sexual energy. And a lot of it isn't directly sexual work. A lot of it's just clearing out your old beliefs, clearing out your old traumas, all these negative emotions, and then creating new pathways in your body, which will eventually be used for sexual energy. So I think it's important that you start, working with yourself first, right? And then you can start working with the sexual practices. And it's really about cultivating self-love, self-respect, getting to know your body, developing your body and your mind to have this deeper connection with your, your multidimensional nature, really, especially with your sexuality. So it's great to do it by yourself. And then when you are with a partner, you are very skillful and you can really bring that quality in. You might even attract someone who's, doing the same work as you. No, I don't do 2-week cycles. I usually go about 4 to 6 weeks. Can testicle breathing be done lying down on bed? Should always be sitting? No, you can do it in any position. I think my favorite is to do it sitting down, because it just kind of, for me, it leads to better body awareness, but I do it laying down a lot as well, or standing up. Johnny Blaze, I don't see your question above. You can repost it. Can you listen to music for transmutation or no music? Which one is better? I'm not sure what you mean by transmutation, like a specific practice, but when I'm doing meditation, I don't listen to any music, because I want to have better focus within and not kind of rely on something. Sometimes when I'm doing other practices like qigong or my tai chi, I'll put some like meditative music on. Can you explain dark tantra? I'm not exactly sure what, if is dark tantra a term? It sounds it sounds foreboding. It sounds like maybe some dark sex magic, sexual vampirism kind of stuff. I don't know. I haven't studied it, so I can't say. How do you move the chi ball through the orbit? With your mind awareness. It's not visualization, but it's tangibly feeling that area of your body. You compact the chi and then feel that with body kind of kinesthetic awareness moving through your body. Gear Jim, no, I haven't seen any of your messages. So sometimes when you guys post comments on the YouTube feed, they don't show up. I'm not sure why. So if I'm not answering your question, I might not be seeing it. Okay, are women's energy systems similar to men's? Can they do practices like the microcosmic orbit as well? Yeah, I mean, energetically, the channels are all the same. Women's energy typically flows a bit differently than men's, though. Obviously, their sexual organs are different too, so there's different practices with that, but they're quite similar. For men, it's testicle breathing, right? Moving the energy from the testicles. For women, it's ovarian breathing. They breathe into the ovaries and move that cool yin sexual energy from that through their body. But yeah, women work the microcosmic orbit as well. Typically for women, the natural flow through the orbit is up the front, down the back, whereas men, it's typically up the back and down the front. But men and women can run the orbit either way. How do I start the microcosmic orbit? Check out my video on YouTube. I have actually several videos of different techniques of working with the microcosmic orbit. Will I ever teach a class in Sedona or a workshop? I'd love to. I would definitely love to. Sedona is one of my favorite places. I'm actually going to be going back there possibly next month in January. If you know someone who would or a good fitting space to host a workshop, let me know. I would love to do a class in Sedona. How does retaining go along with creating art? I think that's a good idea. In general, sexual energy and cultivating sexual energy is really, really great for your creativity because sexual energy is creative energy. So I always encourage, men who are practicing retention to have some sort of creative outlet. It's very important. If you don't engage in something creatively, right, then sometimes that energy, it becomes stagnant in your body, right? You want to keep it fluid, and keep it moving. So what I've found is when I'm simultaneously, or when I have this internal practice where I'm, building my sexual energy, moving it throughout my body, engaging in conscious sexual practices, then when it naturally just boosts my creativity. It makes me want to create things. I want to create art. For me, I'm a musician. I love to play music. So it becomes very effortless to channel that into your creative outlets. Okay, tips on relaxing the muscles when there's tension on them. Doing progressive relaxation exercises is great. This is basically where you go through your body and each body part. So you go through individual body parts, like you might start at your head, your face, and go down. Basically, you squeeze. So do this laying on the ground. You squeeze the muscle for a few seconds as hard as you can, then you just relax it completely. You do that a few times and you get better at releasing tension from your body. But there's also just a more internal, just overall holding your awareness in that part of your body. And as you inhale, feel like you're breathing into that area of your body, wherever the tension is. And then as you exhale, feel like you're melting it, dissolving it, like really hold your awareness in there. And it's like, you can almost imagine it's like an ice cube and you wrap your hands of your mind around it. So as you exhale, it melts, the tension melts. So it's really a matter of, practicing with this kind of work. Any negative effects of retention? Yeah, good question. I think it's also good to be always good to be mindful of the potential negativities, the potential downside to retention. There are some potential negative effects. The most common one, I see this a lot, is stagnant energy. Stagnant, which makes sense because retention, you're stopping. Typically, men get into this pattern of like, often the thought form around semen retention is one of stopping, like repressing, holding back, like, okay, I got to stop ejaculating, stop, feeling pleasure, stop masturbating. You get so focused on this quality of stoppage, it creates a contraction in your body. It creates stagnance in your body. Your energy gets stuck in your balls and it can't properly express itself. Sexual energy wants to flow, it wants to move, it wants to create. If you're just holding on to it, kind of this lack mindset, right? Like, I'm going to lose it if it, you get stuck in this pattern of contraction. I see this a lot, and you just feel stagnant. And the most common kind of effects in your personality are anger and irritability, an overinflated ego. We see this a lot in the semen retention community. And so basically you prevent this by keep that sexual energy moving. This is why I don't think anyone should be doing semen retention unless they're going to be doing internal energy practices, to work with that energy and move it, because again, you can have, negative effects from it. It's also important to understand that sexual energy is an amplifier and it bonds things together. It's like a psychic superglue. So if you have all these underlying negative emotions, these unconscious patterns you haven't resolved with, and you start cultivating all this sexual energy, then you can amplify these, negative patterns. So that's why I always, in my 6-week course, I teach these in-depth foundational practices, like how to clear negative emotions, how to create a safe pathway for your body to move sexual energy through so it doesn't get stuck, and most importantly, how to ground that energy, keep it grounded. What metaphysical subjects do I have a lot of insight on? I've been pretty deep down the rabbit hole, metaphysical stuff. I don't know. A lot of insight. I don't know. I pretty much teach what I think I have the most insight on. I'm interested in a lot of metaphysical things, sacred geometry, past lives, ascension, higher dimensional beings, extraterrestrials. I'm fascinated in this kind of stuff. Conspiracy theories, esoteric history, the origins of humanity, the creation of the human species. I'm interested in this stuff. Do I ever suffer from excessive existential thoughts, existential anxiety? I used to when I was doing a lot of mushrooms, but that was years ago. It was like a decade ago. But no, I feel pretty at peace, with who I am, what my place is in this universe. I feel like I'm on a good path, and I know what my purpose is, why I'm here, why I'm in a human body, and no, I feel pretty good I feel pretty clear about my path and my destiny. What is your opinion on succubus, and who is she? I mean, succubus is kind of this, uh, often known as kind of a demon or an entity that feeds off of people's sexual energy, right? I can't say I have much of an opinion on it, but that's, what a succubus is. Some people may consider a person this, or, there's, it's kind of an occult thing where you create a succubus, where you like have a ritual and you like send your sexual energy to like feed an entity or something, and weird stuff, right? I don't know. I haven't done that stuff, but I've heard about it, right? So I don't know. Succubus is basically an entity that takes people's sexual energy. Ever plan to visit South California? I'm sure I'll be back there again. Some weird stuff going on in California right now. A lot of people I know are moving out of California, but we'll see. When was the last time you relapsed? I mean, I don't really use the word relapse. I don't really have negative connotations to, sexual experiences I may have, right? Because it's all kind of a journey. But the last time I masturbated to porn, we'll say maybe that's what you're talking about, was three years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, probably 4 years ago. No, it was longer than that. I think it was like 2016. So it's been a while. How to transmute sexual energy through meditation. A really great practice is working with the microcosmic orbit. Again, this is a channel. It starts at the perineum, moves up the back of the body, moves down the front of the body. I have guided videos of this on my YouTube channel, but basically working with this orbit, it gives the sexual energy a pathway to move through. And as the sexual energy moves through it, it refines that energy, changes the form of it, turns into this more usable energy, and it starts to move through the entire body. So it kind of refines the quality of it. As it travels around, it evolves, and you benefit from that. So that's a great practice to work with. And a practice called testicle breathing, which specifically guides the sexual energy through that orbit as well. How long does it take to start mastering this? If you mean just the sexual practices in general, it really depends. Um, Obviously, this is why it's sexual kung fu. Kung fu is a skill. It's a discipline in achieving something. It's practice, consistency over a period of time, right? And so, you know, a lot of guys start to get this within months. For some guys, it takes years. It really depends. So when doing semen retention, when you feel like the sexual energy is coming, can you go to something else and kind of bypass? So assume you mean like when you feel like sexual desire, you can channel that into other things. Like I think creative outlets are great, social connection, having a conversation with someone, stimulating conversation. You can also meditate, do qigong, move the energy in other ways, learn the sexual kung fu practices to directly move the sexual energy through the body. I'm plagued with existential thoughts and anxiety. Do you have any advice on how to find some peace? I think it'd be good for you to focus on grounding, getting in your body, being in the here and now, playing, having fun, being like a child, go play in nature, do fun things. That gets you in the moment, gets you out of this head and this, what is the universe? What happens when I die? All this stuff, just be in your body, right? Everything is happening here in the moment, right here, right now. When you get outside of that, you start getting into these weird, thought loops. You're disconnected from the moment, you're disconnected from the body. That's what anxiety is you're projecting into the future. So get back into the here and now, ground yourself. I think Qigong is an incredible practice for this as well. No, I'm definitely not getting the COVID vaccine. I am, we won't go into that right now. I don't want to open that one right now. And I don't, I can't say I really recommend putting any vaccine in your body. Typically they have high levels of mercury, aluminum. Maybe this one has some spice, some garnishes of nanobots that, self-replicate and take over your nervous system. The technology's been there to do that since the early 2000s. So, be careful when there's like an agenda. Okay. Be careful when there's a situation presented, all this fear indoctrinated into you about it, and then, oh, well, we have this wonderful solution. When you look back in history and you start to see that pattern, it becomes obvious about what's really going on. Okay. Is there any grounding exercise to ease down the unpleasant symptoms of a real Kundalini? I mean, just, yeah, grounding in general, kind of like I was talking about before, playing, having fun, being in your body, physical exercise, running, burning it off, specific grounding practices, feet on the earth, rooting into the earth, getting out of your head, learning to work with descending energy currents. How do you find other spiritually awakened souls? Everyone I know is plugged into the matrix or just drinks a lot to not think about these big picture questions. Yeah, I can relate. When you're walking this path, when you're raising your vibration, you're doing this inner work, you're doing spiritual work, and opening yourself up to a greater picture, you start to naturally attract more people like that into your life. And there's different ways you can connect with these kinds of people. Like where do conscious people hang out, right? You can kind of connect with people in different ways, but I think you'll find when you're focused on, keeping yourself light, keeping yourself in high vibes, you'll start to naturally attract these kinds of people with your heart. You'll attract these other people into your life as well. Hey, Dominic, right, from Yes Tantra. Okay, she says, I'm a registered nurse and I won't take this vaccine. So there you go. That's coming from someone who's in the medical field. Thanks for sharing. Love your work, by the way. Fireball Dash, my question keeps getting deleted. Yeah, so some questions on YouTube seem to be not showing up. I'm not sure what's going on there. How long did it take you to master celibacy/retention? The universe told me there's big consequences if I masturbate. I was never, well, I guess I went, I would say I had about 2 years where I was kind of celibate, but for me, I never abstained from sexual activity because it just didn't seem quite right for me. Sexual experience is a natural part of our human experience. So, if you choose not to experience it, that's fine, but that's, it's not my path. I feel a lot better overall. How long did it take to master retention? I mean, I wouldn't say I've mastered anything. It's just, it's a practice, right? It's kung fu, it's a skill, it's a discipline I'm developing within myself. As far as like how long it took me to actually be able to do it, without falling back into old habits, I first heard about, the concept of retention. It was 2013. And I would say it was about 5 or 6. I mean, I wasn't like really, really serious about it at first. For me, it wasn't even like necessarily retention I was focused on. It was like, how do I have orgasms without ejaculating? Because that's what I really wanted, right? So it wasn't really like an obsessive focal point of I have to retain forever like a lot of guys do. So I think that's actually why I had a much more sustainable path with it, honestly, was because I didn't start practicing semen retention until like I really wanted to. Like it was pretty effortless for me once I started doing it because I had been doing Qigong. I had learned how to have these sexual experiences that didn't involve ejaculation. And so it was just naturally like, you know what, I don't really feel like ejaculating anymore. And so I naturally kind of let that go for the most part for my life. Vaccines don't prevent diseases. I think vaccines are only like 30 to 40% effective anyway. It's like it's the human immune system has been developed over thousands of years, and we're kind of trading in all this natural soft technology, this incredibly evolved advanced technology, which our human body is. We're trading it over to some questionable substance that who knows what the agenda is behind, right? Do we really want to take that risk? Not to mention over something with a 99.8% survival rate. Like, what's really going on here, guys? Like, see the bigger picture. I'm not making any, accusations, but, come to your own conclusions. Okay, question on diaphragm breathing. On the inhale, should you be expanding and letting go of the pelvic floor, or the opposite? Well, on the inhale, the belly expands. On the exhale, the belly contracts. Uh, Relaxation of the pelvic floor can be happening on the inhale and the exhale. Do I believe in aliens? Yes, I do believe in aliens. I think that a lot of us have a lot of us have genetics that are not of this planet. If you look into esoteric history, there's some very interesting theories and support of evidence that, not all of us are from this planet. Not to mention, if you go out, if you get out of the city, watch the air traffic, you'll see some very interesting things, especially lately. There's a lot of traffic up there, you could say. I was in Sedona in October. I did a UFO tour. Mind blowing. If you guys ever in Sedona, do the UFO tour. It's nuts. So they give you these goggles, these night vision goggles that are, I think they were infrared. You see light spectrums that the human eye can't see. You can see infrared, gamma ray, and the sky was full of activity, we could say. Like these craft would come and like land on the hills, and they would like light up and shoot up off like just everywhere. It's a galactic spaceport there. So yes, I believe in aliens. I mean, the Pentagon says they have alien craft in their basement. They released an article, or they publicly announced basically they have off-world technology, a few months ago. Of course, it's been kind of buried underneath all the fear porn, but the Pentagon is releasing all this stuff. We're really getting down the rabbit hole today, aren't we? That's all right. It's about time, I think. The world is not what we've been told it is. Saturn Jupiter conjunction on the 21st. What's your comment? I talked about this earlier. Basically, yeah, it's a major cosmic event that only happens every 800 years or something like that, and it's who knows what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be a powerful portal for manifestation more than ever right now. Your thoughts, your focus, what you're focusing on is so important. Instead of focusing on this dark, bullshit, focus on love, focus on light, focus on what you want to see, in your life and in the world. Keep your focal point on that. Is there any point you should be squeezing the pelvic floors, such as the exhale? I've been told this allows all the air to push out of the stomach while also doing a natural Kegel. I mean, it depends. There's so many different techniques. It's not necessary just for breathing to do that. But if you want to do like the Kegel engagement, the Mula Bandha, then you can definitely add that in. So typically, you would do that on the exhale, I think. If you do it on the inhale, it's more of like a reverse breath. So do you advocate bringing the sexual energy to the pineal gland to open the third eye? Yeah, you can definitely do that. I've played with this as well, and do it, see what happens. Obviously, if you're grounded and you don't want to force these higher centers open, make sure you have all the foundations built for a safe experience like that. We often get overly focused on up here, especially in the kind of spiritual new agey world, but neglect the proper foundation. So you want to be grounded. You want to have like a lower dantian in place. You want to have this, heart, sexual center connection before you start playing with the upper centers. If you want to do it in a balanced way. Can you do any practice sitting down like the microcosmic orbit? And is meditation alone going to transmute energy up? You can do any meditative practice sitting down. Yeah, you can do the microcosmic orbit sitting down. Meditation alone, is it going to transmute the energy up? Maybe, maybe not. Depends what kind of meditation you're doing. Usually you need kind of a more specific meditation to transmute the sexual energy. Will the real Kundalini be as psychotic and scary as excess yang qi in the head? If so, If so, how to ease it all if I have a real Kundalini? I mean, it's going to be different for everyone. My Kundalini experiences have been pretty beautiful, pretty profound, maybe a bit scary, but also, just something. It was never like too much for me. Oh, and there's my Instagram feed. All right, Instagram's off, but well, actually I could just go live again. 1 second, guys. All right, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, Kundalini. So the Kundalini, I mean, if you're worried about Kundalini, then, don't do anything that might stimulate it. But if you're grounded, if you're ready kind of to go the next step in your evolution experience, then you'll be fine. Any herbs for kidneys can you recommend? So yeah, kidney boosting herbs. You want to usually you want to take a formula of herbs. When you're taking herbal supplements, because they all kind of work together synergistically to have a more powerful effect and in a balanced way too. So you want to take a kidney yin formula typically. Some of my favorite ones are from dragon herbs. So okay, first I'll talk about individual herbs, and I'll give you some formulas. So Hisho Wu, Ramonia, Schizandra, goji berries, black sesame seeds are amazing. Cistanche, desert cistanche, those are great. But herbal formulas for the kidneys, one of my favorites is from dragon herbs. It's called Shou Wu formulation. There's also one called ant essence, which is basically the Shou Wu formulation, but also has Polyrachis ant, which is a powerful gene builder as well. Cordyceps are amazing also. Do you recommend vitamin D? Yes, vitamin D is extremely important. You get vitamin D naturally from the sun. If you're not getting sun, you're not getting vitamin D, you're probably deficient. This is extremely important for your immune system, your hormone levels, your overall sexual vitality. So highly recommend taking a quality vitamin D3 supplement. I take 5,000 to 10,000 IU per day. Generically speaking, better to take the herbs on a semi-regular basis and rotate them. Yeah, it depends what herbs you're taking, but in general, it is good to like cycle your supplements. There's some formulas that are pretty safe for regular use, but yeah, in general, it's good to cycle your supplements basically. The occult. What is the occult? I mean, the occult, I think the definition of the occult is basically like that which is hidden, or it's like, kind of esoteric stuff, right? All right, guys, any last questions before I jump off of here? Thanks everyone for joining. It's always good hanging out with you guys, and see no questions you have. I'm actually going to be going on a vision quest for the 21st, the Great Conjunction. I'm going to be up in a mountain retreat by myself, up in a cabin out in the woods, out in nature, doing some cool stuff. Okay, the herbs come from a website, or it's from Amazon. You can find them on Amazon, but the dragon herbs, that's the company I highly recommend for getting herbal supplements, Chinese herbal formulas. Just go to dragonherbs.com. You can find their stuff on Amazon too. How to meditate on the conjunction day? I mean, just meditate, sit quietly and still your mind, settle your awareness down to your center. What am I going to do in the cabin? Yeah, so my little retreat I'm doing next weekend. I don't know, I'm going to be doing a lot of internal practice. I'm going to be doing Qigong, be doing meditation, focusing what I want to bring in on this cycle. The solstices and equinoxes are very, very powerful times to meditate, to meditate, but also to manifest. Because what happens is, the solstice, so the Earth's rotating, Earth's moving through space, its axis is changing, right? Well, the solstice is the maximum point before it starts going the other direction. Maximum point. So in between those points, it's a yin or a yang cycle, right? From summer solstice to winter solstice, that's a yin cycle. Moving into the winter season, from winter to summer, that's a yang cycle, right? And in the point in between those points is this stillness, right? It's in between yin and yang. That's yuan. It's neutral, yuan qi, neutral. So there's this powerful neutral force that you can kind of tap into on the solstices. So it's a great time to manifest, right? Not to mention this one because it's the conjunction. Dhammayana. Yeah, I've taken Dhammayana. Honestly, I haven't noticed anything terribly relevant from it, but I've taken it just because it's supposed to be good for your bladder, I think, and your sexual health as well. If you aren't having sex or masturbating, what is a good way to use that energy or activate it? Well, to activate it, qigong, internal practices, meditation. To use it, having holistic outlets, having creative outlets and things like that to put the energy into, right? Putting it into your art, putting it into your business, your physical exercise, things like that. All right, guys, I'm gonna jump off. Thanks everyone for joining, and I'll see you guys same time next week. Take it easy, stay safe out there, stay balanced, focus on what you want to see in the world, focus on what you want to become. Don't buy into this fear-based agenda that's trying to pull you back down, distract you to make you forget your power. Remember that you're an infinitely powerful being, and there's nothing you can't accomplish. So have some light, have some think big, have a big vision, and focus on what you want to bring to this world. All right, guys. See you next time.